Entonces, aquí está en pausa.
Mhm. Hello everyone, I'm Carlos Martin Saborido. I'm clinical practice guideline developer in Transplantchild. So this webinar is based on the training program we are going to have here in Madrid, and also you will have available in our website, so you can do this training also online. So let me introduce myself. I'm the clinical practice guideline developer, as I mentioned. My area of expertise is the research on evidence and support of decision making. That is, in one hand, all the evidence generation through systematic review processes and clinical guidelines development. On the other hand, the health economics, that is cost effectiveness analysis, cost effectiveness or utility evaluations based on modeling or not. Talking about my experience, so I've been research associate in health technology assessment in the National Health Technology Assessment Agency, and also in the regional HTA unit in Madrid. I've been also research fellow at the Liverpool Review and Implementation Group, which is one of the groups working on behalf of NICE and the Health Technology Assessment Program, doing evaluations for the Department of Health. I've been also scientific officer in the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, based in Italy, working on the public health unit. Also, through all my jobs, I've been lecturing statistics, research methods, economic evaluation, and health technologies in several universities at national or international level. So today, I'm the clinical practice guideline developer in Transplantchild. So that means that I'm going to be in charge of the coordination of the development of the guideline. So I've been working closely with Antonio Carcas and Dr. Lorenzo Dantica on this working group. Okay, so did you know that over 70 organizations, they have adopted or using GRADE, which is the methodology we are going to use in the clinical practice guideline development. So you can see within this picture, big organizations like the CDC from the United States, the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence from UK, you can see a lot of organizations. That means that not only the people is very aware of the use and utility of clinical practice guidelines, but also they recognize that some kind of systematic process is needed to go ahead in the development of clinical practice guidelines. So stepping into the guideline, what is a guideline? So here in this figure, I want to summarize the process. Mainly, we have a healthcare question. So I just take one from the field of transplantation. So should my initiation strategy work in liver transplant recipients with HCV RNA levels elevated? And we would like to finalize with a recommendation. That is, we recommend the minimization strategy and so on. So what happened in between? So we have here a gap filled with an arrow, but we want to know how to go from a healthcare question to a recommendation. So this is the first idea about what is a guideline. The second idea of what is a guideline is here summarized in this figure. So you see that mainly the guideline is a list of questions that need to be answered. In this process, we need to know how to formulate the questions, which is very important. We need to format all these questions, formulate these questions in a PICO format. That is participants, interventions, comparators, and outcomes. And how to answer. So it's easy or is easier to formulate the question than answer the questions. So first we need to identify evidence, assess the quality of the evidence, go from the evidence to the recommendation. If you remember the previous figure, we want to reach from the healthcare question to the recommendation. And at the end, we use a software. So this is a second idea of guidelines. So list of questions, format a question, systematic process to answer the question, everything using a software. So the first idea of what is a guideline basically is, okay, guideline is a document, contain recommendations about health interventions. These interventions can be clinical, public health, or policy recommendations. I mean, it's a intervention in the whole sense of the word. Recommendation provides information about what healthcare providers, patients, or policymakers should do. Sometimes we try to include everyone in the clinical practice guideline. So sometimes we try to answer or we try to guide healthcare providers, also patients and policymakers. This is an important issue. So depending on our audience, we should define the aims and the processes of our guideline. And the last idea of what is a guideline is that the recommendations try to help decisors and decision-making processes. I mean, if we develop a guideline for healthcare providers, the decision would be clinical. If we are developing a clinical guideline for decision maker, that is policy makers, we need to do the process through other bias. And obviously we need to include patients in all cases, because when we talk about healthcare providers, they provide health to the patients. If we talk about policymakers, they are having decisions or making decisions based on patients' needs. So after these three slides about the clinical guidelines, I want to go into the grade process. So you will see in the training that the clinical guidelines can be developed using different processes or systematics. So we are going to use the grade process because we think is the best one. We think it's very systematic, is very well designed and easy to fix everything. As you see in this slide, you have at top the light blue square, which is the process of evidence synthesis. So all of you have done or read some systematic review. So here you will see from the formulate the question in the PICO format on the left of your screens until the right, where you rate the quality of the evidence. So all this process is the process of systematic review. But keep in mind that some points of this systematic review need to be very clear in the guideline process. For example, selecting outcomes and rate the importance of the outcomes, which is one of the main things we are going to do in the near future. And you will see also down a light rose square, which are the recommendations. If you remember, the process of the guideline is from the question to the recommendation. So in the top of the image, the light blue square, we have all the process of gathering the evidence and rating the evidence. And with this evidence and something else, all the expert panels need to do a recommendation. So as you can see here, we have several processes, but we have panelists, members. So they have different roles. And this is one of the main things we are going to do in our training. So the process of the development of the guideline, as I mentioned, we need to recruit the team. So you see the first step is recruiting the team. So this is something we have done. We have a list of people, we have the team, but now we need to distribute the roles. So that's why the training we are going to do is going to explain all this process and is intended to put everyone on the role. Okay, so after the distribution of roles is the scoping. So we need to identify the key clinical issues, make the list of questions, and the identification, definition, and ranking of the outcomes. That means we are now in this process. We have a list of questions. They have been in several waves. So you have developed a very good list of questions, and now we need to identify outcomes. We need to define these outcomes, and also we need to rank them. So we need to rate the importance of these outcomes. And from that point, we will do all the searches, we will identify the evidence, we synthesize evidence, and with all the evidence assessed, the panel, that means some of you, will formulate recommendations, okay? And when this process finalized, we need to disseminate and implement in the degree we want to implement the guideline. So these are the contents of the training. So the training, we will have an introduction to the development of the practice guidelines. That is, we're going to use the Grade Pro GDT, which is a software. It's the software where we are going to develop all the processes of the development of the clinical guidelines. A second bullet is the tasks. So we are going to say, okay, this is the team, this is the members' role into the team. You are going to do this, you are going to do that, and we need to identify the expertise of everyone and to train the people that have no experience, previous experience on these processes. The main part of this first training is the systematic reviews tool. So we want to do all the process, probably all the process is going to be remote. That means someone in Italy is going to do part of the work, some part of the team in Vilnius is going to do another part, and so on. So we need flexibility. That means to use online software that help us to work remotely. So the first step from research question to the search strategy is the documentalist role. So not probably, we are going to do that from here, from Madrid. But from this point onward, we're going to work remotely. That means the study selection is going to be done from the country of everyone. So we need to use these online tools. For example, Ryan, which is a software used in the development of systematic reviews. Other important process is the risk of bias assessment, and we're going to use Review Manager if we identify clinical trials, and other tools, for example, Epoch or another one, if we identify no uncontrolled trials. The data extraction probably is going to be done on, on Excel, but we need to define this point. The evidence synthesis, if we have to do some quantitative evidence synthesis, we are going to use the Review Manager in case of having only 2 comparators, and if we have more than 2 comparators, that means indirect comparison, we will use Stata or another software. And data extraction and interpretation of summary of findings are 2 points we are going to work on them in the training, are going to be done in the Great Pro GDT, which is going to be introduced at the very beginning of the training. So that means we are going to use this kind of tools. So Great Pro GDT and Ryan are online tools, so we can use wherever we are. Review Manager is not an online tool we can use if we are outside of Cochrane. So probably all the tasks that need to be done under Review Manager will be done in one place, here in Madrid or in the place we decide. So the training, this first training is going to be into different types. So the first one, face-to-face, is going to be held in Madrid on February 25th. It's a 6-hour intensive training, probably between 11 and 6 in the afternoon. That would depend on the flights and everything. It's going to be hands-on. That means in the computer room with all these tools and all the processes, we are going to use guided exercises. So I'm going to guide a couple of exercises for you to work on that, and then you will do some self-managed exercise by yourself in the classroom. So all this training is going to be recorded and developed in 8 short video peels. That means we are going to upload all these videos, all these sessions into the campus, in our virtual campuses. And also we are going to do some guided exercises, 5. These exercises are going to be video tutorials. That means I'm going to tell you how to do things, and you will be able to do at the same time. And last but not least is 2 self-managed exercises with the video solution. That is, I'm going to give you 2 cases. You are going to develop the cases, and you will have the solutions to check if you have done properly or not. So, summarizing, everyone in the CPG should be trained. That is, if we are going to be a team, we need to be trained, because we need not only to know what I am going to do, but who is my internal client, so who is going to receive all the information I'm going to manage, and who is going to prepare the information that I'm going to receive. So that's why it's crucial to be trained. Uh, Second point, we have wide availability of training. That is, we have face-to-face training in Madrid. We will have an online training. That means that everyone can be trained. So please keep the time you need to be trained. We will announce the next. I think let me think. We will probably by the end of February we will have ready the online training. So we'll be uploaded by those days. Okay. As the last summary point is to be efficient. So efficient methods. We are going to use online tools. That means you can do wherever you are, whenever you want. So if you have any question, just feel free to ask. Just to call your attention, I kindly ask you to apply for the training. If you want to attend the face-to-face meeting in Madrid, we cover only the fees for the teaching hours. That means that travel expenses need to be by your own, okay? And then if you cannot do the face-to-face meeting in Madrid, the training, you can do the online training probably by March, okay? So thank you very much. And again, if you have any question, just ask. Thank you.